Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. In previous video, I have shown you how to design this main activity where we can see all the cards, and I have shown you how to design this and how to set the images. So if you haven't watched that video, then just go to description. There I put the link for my previous video. In this video, we are going to generate the data which are required whenever we click on this health. Then the data which is required, we need to add that data into our application, right? So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to implement a DB into my application, which is going to keep all the data, right? And we are going to perform all the operation on that. So for that, to add a new DB, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move back to this browser, and here you have to search for this room dependency Android Studio. Whenever you click on this one, you will find this first stuff, that is room-Android developers. Click on this, and this will open a link like this, and here we are actually required this dependency. So what I'm going to do is just copy this stuff and move back into this one, and let me just close this and just move back into this one, Griddle, go to this build.griddle, and here what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some space over here and just paste it inside. In the place of this room version, if we move back over here, you can find the version over here. So just copy this one. If you are watching this video after a while, then you may find that the version is different. So not to worry about that, you can just copy or use that version. So I'm going to just replace it and just replace it and just save it. Here you will find the option to sync now. Just click on this and it will download the jar required for this room_runtime. It may take some time depending on your internet connection. Okay, while it's actually syncing, let me just quickly create some of the folders. So first I'm going to create one package, and this package will be models. Click on enter. Next thing, I'm going to create a new package, and I'm going to name this one database. I'm going to create a new package over here, and I'm going to name this one data, and one more package, and I'm going to name this one down. Okay, so now our syncing is finished and our folder structure is also ready. So first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a model class. How actually that question or how actually that item will look. So right click on this, click on new and create a Java class, and I'm going to name this one items and hit enter. It will create a class like this, and I'm going to implement the serializable over this one. Why I implement serializable? Because whenever we require to encode the data and transfer it over the network, then we need this serializable. Okay, so you need to, if you want to study it in depth, you can just explore by pressing the Ctrl-Alt key. So here we have to download the jar for this one. So I'm not going into depth for this. You can refer the online stuff. Okay. And if you still find the difficulty in understanding this, then please comment. I will make a separate video for the same. Okay. So in this one, first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an annotation over here. So this will be entity. And entity, I'm going to give it a name. That will be the table name actually. And I'm going to name this one items. Okay. So what basically this entity means that it's referring to a table. Okay, after this I'm going to create some of the columns. Just imagine it as a table. This is the table name. Okay, after this I'm going to give it a pk. So what I'm going to do is int id, and it will be 0 and it will be auto incremented. So @ primary key, and it's auto generated, and just mark this one true. So it means that whenever we insert a new data, it will be auto incremented. If the value is 0, then it will be 1 whenever we insert the first record. If 1 already exists, then it will be 2 whenever we insert the second value. Next thing what we have to do is we have to create one more variable, that is for item name. So string item name, and for this one I'm going to give it a column info, and I'm going to give it a name. Name is equal to item name. Okay, make sure you keep everything in small case. Okay, otherwise it's may cause issues. Okay, item name. Next thing, we need one category @ column info, and I'm going to give this name category. After this, I need a variable string added by. It means that whatever the data corresponding to, like basic need is a category, right? So in the basic need, if I'm adding something else, then some data are added by system, that is me, that is application, right? And some data which user enters is a custom data which is manually entered by user. So that's how we actually bifurcate the admin, the system data, and the user data, right? So in that, for that scenario, I have added a column that is added by. Okay, going further, I will explain in detail, not to worry about that. So added by @ column info, and the next is checked. It means that you have clicked on checked or not, like this, and this will be a boolean. By default it will be false. Okay, after this, what I have to do is I have to generate a constructor that will be empty constructor. So I have pressed Alt and insert key, click on constructor and select none. It will generate a constructor over here. Next thing, we have to create a multiple argument constructor. So Alt insert and create a constructor and select this item name, category, and this one, everything. Just click on OK and this will create, right? So in this one, I'm not going to pass this one added by. Okay, so one is this one in which we are going to pass this item name, category, added by, and checked. In one, what we are going to do is we are going to add only these three and click on OK. And inside this one, we are going to add this dot added by is equal to, and this is system. It means that whatever the data we are adding, our application is adding, will be by default added by system, right? Next thing, we have to generate the getter and setters for this. So click on this and generate the getter and setter for all. So what I did is I pressed Alt and insert and select this getter and setter and select all and click on OK. This will generate a getter and setters. That's it. So task 4 model is done. Next thing what we have to do is we have to move to this database and we will prepare a database, right? So right click on this, click on new and select a Java class. So click on this and this, I'm going to just name this one roomdb because we are implementing a roomdb. So click on this and this will be an abstract class. So public abstract class roomdb, which will extend room database like this one. And here what we are going to do is I'm going to put a database annotation, and inside this one I'm going to pass the entities. It means that how many tables our database contains. So my database contains only one table, so items.class, and I'm going to give it a version to 1 and export schema to false like this. Next thing what we have to do is we have to create some of the variables over here, that is private static room db, and this will be a database, and private static string, and I'm going to give it a database underscore name, and it will be something like mydb. Okay. Next thing what we have to do is we have to write public, and it will be a synchronized method so that there is no data inconsistency problem. Static room db and get instance, and inside this one we have to pass the context, and inside this one what we have to check is if database is equal to null, and what we will do, we will create a new instance, right? If it's new, if it's not null, then what we will do, we will simply return a database, right? Database object. So now we are going to create the database instance, right? So how to do that? For that, database is equal to room dot database builder. Inside this one, we will pass context dot get application context, comma, room db dot class, and we have to pass the database name. So database name dot allow okay, so we got some issue over here. Let me just check it. So get application context. So we did one small mistake. We have to just remove this curly braces over here, and here what we will do type is allow main thread queries dot fallback destructive migration dot build. That's it. Okay, so now the task over here is done. One more stuff, what we have to do is we have to just move into this one. So public abstract, and we have to return on item DAO. So we haven't created one DAO, so let me just create quickly. It will be a interface, and I'm going to name this one item DAO. Okay, so just move back over here and return I'm going to name this one main DAO, something like this. Let me just change this one to items, because item is already over there. So I'm going to just change this one to items DAO, just refactor, and here we go. It's items DAO, right? So I have changed the name of this one from items DAO, item DAO to items DAO. Next thing, we have to move over here into the data package. Just click on this, select new, and select Java class. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a class with the name app data, which is going to basically contains all the data whatever required for my application. Okay, the raw data. Before adding the data into the database, the data will be kept over here, and as we have seen in the quick overview, after deleting again I'm retrieving the data, right? So that data will be retrieved from this class, that is app data, and this class I'm going to extend it from application so that it would be helpful in the later scenarios. Okay, after this I'm going to just create a instance of this room db. So I'm going to name this one database. After this I'm going to create one variable for the string, that will be category. Next thing, I'm going to create a public static final string last version is equal to, it will be last underscore version. After this, I'm going to create one more variable, that is public static final end new underscore version is equal to 3. Like this. I'm going to explain this last version and new version concept in a while, why I'm using this. Okay, by moving further, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some of the constructor which are required throughout the development. So click on this, and I'm going to select this database and click on OK. And whenever we are going to save the data into this, we are going to need the database instance. So we are going to pass it from where we are going to use this app data, right? So whenever we create an object of this app data, we have to pass this room db instance, and we are going to perform the operation on this database. Okay, next thing, we have to create one more variable, and we need one more constant over here, that will be context like this. And I'm going to create another constructor over here. So alt insert, create constructor, and it will be context and database, and click on OK, and this will create a constructor like this. Next thing what we have to do is we have to create one variable. Variable is done. We have to create one method. Okay, so public, and it will return a list of items. There are two ways you can store the data. So I'm going to show all of those stuff one by one. So first is this one. This method is going to return all the basic details. So basic data. Okay, and I'm going to explain why I have took one variable for the category. So category is equal to its basic detail, right? So basic needs, like this one. If I open my app quickly, this one, here you can observe that if I go to the basic need, we have this data, right? And here you can observe the header is basic need. This is the category, basically. This is the data, and this is the checked or not checked, that is the boolean value, right? And this is the delete button. So in the basic needs, we have added visa, passport, tickets, wallets, driving license, etc., etc. So we're going to add these all one by one. So category, we have declared a variable over here. So first thing, I'm going to create one list of string, sorry, not list of a string, list of items. And I'm going to give it a name, basic item is equal to new array list, like this. Next thing, in the basic item, I'm going to add, and I'm going to add a new items. And inside this one, first we have to pass the whatever the data you want to add. So visa. Next thing, in the constructor we have created to pass three stuff. One is the name, another is the category, and another is the value, that is false, like this one. So you can see this item name by default is showing visa. In the category, whatever the category we have passed, and the check. If I go to the items, we have the constructor for 3 arguments, right? And inside this one, added by is by default system. It means that it is added by the system, right? So let me just move back over here. In the same way, we can add multiples. Like, let me just copy this and just paste it over here, and just change the name over here, and it will be passport, right? And finally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just return basic item, like this. You must be worried that how this is going to insert into the database. So don't worry about that. Just have some patience. This is the one way to actually add the data into this database, right? Not to the database, basically to this basic items. Another way is little bit easier. In that, what we are going to do is, here you can see this, you have to just copy paste it again. Changing it is a bit tough task, right? And we have to also manage a category variables. So next thing, how we can do is, we can do like this, public list of items, and I'm going to give it a name. So get personal care data, and inside this one, we can store the data like this, string, and I'm going to create a array data is equal to like this one, and just like this. Over here, what we can do is we can add like this, toothbrush, comma, toothpaste, another is floss. After this, we have mouthwash. We can add stuff like this. After this data is created, you must be worried that how we are going to return a list of items, because we have a list of array. We have array, right? String array, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one method which will process this data into this form, and it will return it, right? So how we are going to do that? So public, and it's going to return a list of items, and it will prepare items list. I'm going to name this one, and string category, and it will accept string array, that is data, like this. After this, what it will do is we just convert this into a list of a string, that is list is equal to, and we will use arrays dot as list, and we'll pass the data into this one. So list string array will be converted into list of a string with the help of this arrays as list method. After this, what we will do is we will create list of items object, and I'm going to name this one data list is equal to new array list. After this, what we are going to do is we are going to add stuff like this. For int I is equal to 0 and I should be less than list.size and I plus plus. After this, what we are going to do is we are going to do like this: data list dot add and new items. Inside this one, we have to pass list dot get I and category, and by default selection is false. Suppose in the list we have 10 of values, so it will run 10 times and then it will create a new items with whatever the category you will provide, and by default this is unchecked. In this way it will generate the data, the list of items. So like this, you don't need to paste this multiple times. A loop will run and it will do it for you. Next thing, after this we will simply return this data list like this, and now our data is prepared. But one small issue is still remaining. Suppose to call the same stuff and the data list contains some data. In that case, for the safer side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just data list dot clear, we will call it. Okay, so now I'm going to use this. So how we are going to use this? Just move back over here, return prepare item list. Inside this one we have to pass the data and whatever the category we actually need. So you must have seen that in my constant we have already created the constant for this. So clothing camel case, you can use it. You can also use this one. So move back over here. Let me just close this. Data is a secondary. Inside this one I'm going to use my constants dot, and inside this one we can use personal care, right? So personal care like this one, and this will generate the data for this. So it seems simple, right? Because it's easy to type in the place of copy and paste. So this is how we can done this. So let me just copy and paste all of the data, whatever I required. So I'm not going to provide this data to you. You have to manually add these data. Okay. So let me just copy this basic details. Just move back over here and just copy and paste it. And here you can see this. In the basic details, we have added this basic needs, and this is basic items like this. Visa, this one. Next thing, we have personal cares and other data is over here. So let me just copy these and let me just paste it over here. Okay. So I have just pasted the raw data. So this data I have pasted, copied and pasted, right? So personal care data, we have add clothing data, we have baby needs, and I'm calling the same method which I have created right now in the front of you. So don't get confused with this. Okay. Here you can see this get technology data, get food data. We have just changed the keys, the category. Okay. So you can see this. Now everything is same. Above this, everything is same, and we have pasted this stuff. You can pause and type it manually, or you can add your custom data, whatever is required. Prepare data. Next thing after this, what we have to do is we have to generate. Now these all method is going to return the data filled in the form of list of items. So again, this list of item needs to be persisted into the database, right? For that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another method, public, and this will return a list of items, and I'm going to name this one get all data like this. I'm going to create a list of items, and this will be list of all items is equal to new array list like this one. And set this one, first I'm going to just clear it, and after that list of items dot add, and I'm going to call get basic data, and this will return all the data and add all the data from the basic data into this list. Okay, after this I'm going to add list of all items dot add get clothing data like this, list of all items dot add get personal care data, list of all items dot add get baby needs data. After this, list of all items dot add, and I'm going to add get health data. List of all items dot add get technology data. After this, I'm going to add list of all items dot get food data. List of all items dot add get beach supplies data. List of all items dot add get car supplies data. List of all items dot add get needs data. And finally, I'm going to return this list of all items, and our method is ready. Let's quickly have a look that if anyone is still left. So we have used all the methods, because whenever we use all of the method, the color of this is changed. So if let me just show you quickly. I'm going to just remove this. I'm going to just comment it, and if I move back over here, you can see this. Now the color for this one is different and the color for this one is different. So every data I have added into my list, I'm sure about this. Next thing what we have to do is we have to actually persist the data into the database. These all data, right? For that, I'm going to just create one method, that is public void persist all data. And this method, we're going to expect one list of items, list of all items is equal to get all data, like this. After this, I'm going to just run a loop for list of items, list over this list of all items. Inside this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run another loop, items colon list over this list, and inside this one I'm going to just create a database dot main DAO dot save. Okay, so we haven't created the interface, the method required in this one, in this main items DAO. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type it over here and we will write it later. So save item, and inside this one I'm going to pass the items like this. And finally, after the persist, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just type one method. So system dot out dot print a message, basically data added. Okay, after this loop finished, all the data is added. How we'll get to know? By seeing this into the run file. Okay, so this is showing an issue. So next thing what we are going to do is we are going to resolve this issue. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to work on this item DAO, and this is the interface. Inside this, on the top of this, I'm going to add one annotation, that is DAO, which basically means that this is a DAO interface, and we can use the annotations provided by this DAO. Okay, so next thing what we are going to do is we are going to type void, and it will be save item. This is a method which we have used, and this will accept one items like this, and we have to put one annotation over here. So insert, we are going to insert, and in the scenario of insert, if there is duplicate data, it means that on conflict, what we want to do is we want to replace it. Okay, so hover over this and replace, like this one. Okay, so now if I move back into this one, app data, now here you can see this, now the error is gone. Next thing, we actually need multiple queries inside this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type all the queries quickly so that it will be helpful in later videos. So first I'm going to type one method, that is get all, which will return all the list of items like this. Let me just press alt and insert, alt and enter, and it will be get all by category. So string category, and it will be query will be something like this, select star from items is our table name. If I move back into this one, room db into this items model, and you can see this is the table name, right? So items, so we have to run the query over that. So items where category is the column, and we also have the key, this is the category. So category is equal to colon category equals colon category. It means that for this column, if we want to pass the value from here to here, we have to put this colon in the front of it. Okay, after this we need it by order by id, and in ascending order, sorry, ASC. Okay, next query which we are going to write is to delete. So void delete, and it will accept one items, and just put the annotation delete, and it will delete. It will take care of remaining query. You don't need to write a query over here. Okay, next thing what we are going to do is we are going to check and uncheck. We are going to write a query for that to check or uncheck. So this is going to return nothing, void check uncheck, and I'm going to just need id and the boolean value that you want to check or uncheck. So checked like this, and we are going to write the query over here. So update table items, and here what we are going to do is set checked is equal to colon checked, like this, where id is equal to colon id. So you must make sure that this is the table name. If you go to the model, this is the table name, and whatever the columns you're using, you keep the same name over there. So I'm using this id. It's a case sensitive. You cannot write a small int, right? If you want to use that, you have to mention a small id over here. So if I move back over here, we have to write this in this format. Okay, next thing, now this query is ready. Next thing, I'm going to write one another query to get all the items count. So get items count, and this will simply return the count, and it will be return type for this one is integer. So query select count star from items, like this will return all the queries, all the count of the data. Okay, next thing what we have to do is we have to delete all the data added by the system user. So I'm going to just this will return integer value that how many rows are deleted. So delete all system items. So string added by, so whatever you pass into this one. So I'm going to type this query not select, this will be delete from items where added by is equal to colon added by, something like this. So in the app data, we have seen that we have mentioned added by, we have used this 3 argument constructor, right? Here you can see this 3 argument constructor, and if I go into this one, you can see added by system. So whenever we want to delete all the data added by system, we have to call this query delete all system items, and we have to pass system over here, and it will delete all the data which is by default added by this app data. Okay, next thing, we need to add few more queries. So another query will be delete all by category. So delete, and will return an integer value. So delete all by category. Category means nothing but what are the names over here. So if I move back over, this basic need is a category, clothing is a category, personal care is a category, baby needs is a category. Okay, so I'm going to add the category over here. So string category over here, and now I'm going to add a query. Delete from items where category is equal to category, something like this. Next thing, we need to delete all by category and added by. Okay, and this will also return an integer. Delete all by category and added by. So string category and string added by. As I have shown you in the video that sometimes what in the menu option we have the feature to delete the app data but not to delete the add data which user have manually added. So for in that situation we need this data. So not to worry, don't panic after seeing this much of query. I will explain everything whenever I use this stuff. Okay, so just have some patience, just keep following. Okay, so I'm going to write the query for this one. So query delete from items where category is equal to category and added by is equal to added by, something like this. Next thing, we have to get all the data which is checked or unchecked. So list items get all selected. Okay, inside this one we have to pass the boolean value like checked and just pass the query into this one. Select star from items where checked is equal to checked, like this. Order by ID as in ascending order. Okay, like this one. I guess we made some mistake. Okay, annotation are not allowed here. So query. Okay, so let me just remove this and here we go. So now we have created all the queries and we moved back from the start. So first what we have did is we have added the dependency into our project. Okay, so next thing what we have did is we have created the model class in which we have created the table with the name items, and we have the column ID, the name, category, added by, and checked or unchecked. Okay, after this we have created the room database and I have just kept it name that is MyDB, and the version for this one is 1, and this database contains one table that is items. And we have also created the item app data, whatever the data which is required in my application is over here, and whatever the queries is required is over here. So one small stuff is still remaining, that we haven't persisted the data into the database right till now. Whenever our application start, it start with the main activity. Okay, so if it start with the main activity and there we haven't written any logic to persist this data, to get the data and persist into the database. So before we persist the data, the small stuff is still remaining. What's that? That we have to add the data only the first time when application is installed. But suppose I have somehow managed to do that. The second problem is, suppose we give an update to this app, and in the second update I have added some other variables over here. In that scenario, suppose user updated the app, but this data will not be persisted, that whatever the values you have added over here. Okay, so to overcome that situation, we are going to use a shared preference feature which is provided by the Android. So you have to study. If you want to study, you just go over here and you can just search for shared preferences. Let me just move back over here, Control T. Okay. Preferences in Android Studio, something like this. And here you can study about this. Share preferences is a way where it goes. Share preferences are stable in different situations. For example, the user setting need to save or store the data that can be used in different activities in the same app. We can store it for the multiple purpose. So let me just demonstrate it. You can just go through it. If you can't able to understand this stuff, then just let me know. I will create a separate video for the same. So just move back over here and let's just move back to this main activity and make some space over here. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to just create a method that is private void, and I'm going to give it the name persist app data, like this one. And we will create an object of shared preferences, and here we go. Is equal to preference manager, this one, manager dot get default shared preferences, and we have to pass the context into this one. So this, after this, what we will do is we will create a shared preference and dot editor. We will create an editor of object. So editor preference dot edit. And after this, what we will do is we will create a database variable on the top. So it will be room db, and I'm going to give it the name database. Just move back to the below and we will initialize that where it goes. Yeah, over here. So database is equal to room db dot get instance. Inside this one we have to pass the context. So this, and after this we will create an object of that app data. So app data is equal to new app data. Inside this one we have to pass the database instance. So database, and the database instance is passed. After this we will create a int variable that is last version. So last is equal to preference dot get int. Inside this one we will pass app data dot last version, comma 0, like this one. So from the app data, in the app data I have declared one variable that is last version. This is the key. Okay, so with this key we will extract the data whatever it's stored in the shared preference. Okay, so in the shared preference, if it contains some data, then it will be returned. Okay, so get int, and whatever is returned is 0. For now, initially it will be 0. Okay, after this we will check if not preference dot get boolean, and here I'm going to get this my constant dot first time camel case false. If this is the case, then what we have to do is we have to add all the data. So app data dot persist all data, and we have to put into this editor dot put boolean, and here what I have to do is my constant dot first time camel case. It means that my application is first time installed, so we have to pass true into this one. Okay, so what we will do is from the shared preference, what we are extracting is my application is first time installed. So suppose this is the key in which I am going to actually put the boolean value. So suppose this application is installed for the first time, so it will be false. So it's not false. Here you can see this preference dot get boolean. This key will not be found over there. Okay, so in that situation we are not going to check anything. We are going to simply add all the data, and we are going to update the value. This first time camel case, this is a key, and corresponding to this value will be true. Okay, so after this we have to actually change the editor. So editor dot commit, we are going to perform operation over here. Second situation, else if last is less than app data dot new version. Okay, inside this one what we have to do is we have to just suppose I have changed the version. So last version is 0 and we have to update it with some version that is 1 or 2 and something like that. In that situation what we have to do is database dot main DAO, and we have to delete all the data. So delete all system items. So we have created this query, right? Inside this one I'm going to call this my constant dot system small. So if I go into this one, and here we can see this, we have added one constant for the system. So if I move back over here, so whatever the added by contains system, all the data will be deleted. And here what we will do is app data dot persist all data. After deleting previous data, we are going to persist the data. After this, we will again editor dot put end, and inside this one app data dot last version, and we are going to change this with app data dot new version. So in the app data, whenever we make change in any sort of data, we have to update this one. So initially I'm going to just put 1 over here, because post time I'm going to insert the data. Okay, so if I move back over here, so new version, it will be updated. After this, we have to type editor dot commit. So now these two stuff is handled. Now the thing is, we have to simply call this method whenever this activity is loaded. So let me just copy this and move back to the top, and below this one I'm going to just call that method. And we also need to check that if this data is added into my database or not, if everything goes right or not. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just create a database constant variable over here. So room db dot get instance, and inside this one we're going to pass this, and system dot out dot println, and inside this one I'm going to call this database main DAO dot get all selected, and inside this one I'm going to pass this false so that I get all the data. And from the index 0, I'm going to just get item name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just concatenate it with a string so that we can uniquely identify. I'm just put an arrow over here. Okay, now I'm going to start the application. Let's just move back over here, and let's see what happens. So Gradle build is running. And it's done. Installation is progress, and here we go. Now application is started. We cannot see any changes on the UI part because in the backend we have added the database, we have added the data corresponding to that. So we have to check this arrow. So let me just move back over here, and here you can see this system out and its visa is added. So at the 0th index visa is added. Okay, it means that my data is added properly. If you found any issue throughout this in running, then you must have missed something. You have to start the video from the start and just go again through the complete video. So that's it for this video, guys. In the next video, I'm going to show you when we click on this, how to render the data corresponding to this into the recycler view. So just stay tuned, subscribe, and experience this app by directly downloading from the Play Store. Link is already in the description. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.